3 decades ago, there was an 80-something-year-old woman named Clara Peller asking a simple question, and it became a national sensation. Where's the beef? Now, back then, this was a Wendy's ad campaign targeting other places that had bigger buns than burgers. Well, fast forward to Iowa now, but the question is, where's the beef supposed to get processed?
So what we have right now is a big lack of capacity in the state to process cattle.
We're going to talk to the lead developer of a huge project that supporters think could help with this problem. Hear why the developer does not think that finding 750 workers will be a problem. And we'll talk to the Iowa candidate who hopes that the 5th time is a charm. Hear his plan that would pay teachers based on the students who want them to be their teacher.
From your local election headquarters, this is The Insiders with Dave Price.
You probably noticed that beef is 16% more expensive now than it was a year ago. Iowa beef producers have noticed something that factors into all of this. There are not enough beef processing plants here. Well, Cattlemen's Heritage hopes to change that. With a $450 million plant near Council Bluffs, it would employ 750 people who would make on average $55,000 a year plus benefits. They would process about 40% of the 1 million head of cattle a year right now that's getting processed outside of our state because there's nowhere for them to go here. Now, this would be an investor-owned company still trying to attract enough investors, and is trying to get a third of the cost covered by the state through government funding. But the developer believes it'll help with a serious shortage and also pay off many times over in the years to come.
And the capacity of the other plants just did not keep up. So right now we can't get our cattle through the plants fast enough, and it's causing us to feed cattle longer and hold them longer, which drives the market down.
All right, Dr. Dan, now you will look at this kind of from a bigger picture here. Primarily, you have just a handful of these big companies that hold most of the process right here. Yep. So how is this idea even doable to compete with that?
Well, I think as we talked, we have a lower capacity, or a need for capacity, and as the larger packers have been able to, in the past, the regional plants themselves would do their own scheduling of cattle. Well, now they've centralized it, and so they can fill gaps in schedules around the U.S., around the Midwest, for all their plants centrally, rather than the independent plant having that relationship with the cattle feeders. If you have a mid-sized plant and you're located in southwest Iowa, you will have to have that special relationship with the cattle feeders, the one-on-one relationship going into the feed yards, and you're also going to have an advantage price-wise, otherwise people are going to drive by your plant.
Now, speaking of prices here, dollars and cents here, that's been a big problem for these producers, right?
Yeah, I think the big thing is we're not getting bids. And if you're sitting there and you get one bid a week on your cattle and you're like, I got to take it, I don't know what bid's going to come next week, it really puts a lot, or if one will come, it puts a lot of stress on not only the cattle feeder, but also the cattle, because now we're feeding the cattle longer, we're keeping those animals in the system longer, and we want to get them moved. And so it's putting a lot of stress on our cattle feeders in the state. We need more competition.
Chad, as you know, the pandemic here has exposed all kinds of weaknesses and problems and challenges in our whole food supply system. But one of the things has been workforce here, and you're going to need 750, 800 people or so to make this thing work once it's fully phased in, right? Can you get the bodies for that?
Yeah, so strategically we placed the plant in Mills County, just south of Council Bluffs. Right across the river is 1 million population with an industry already in this space. So there's a lot of skilled employees in this space already. We designed the plant for a single day shift, on-site daycare, on-site banking, and on-site health care that we believe, with a very aggressive starting wage, we believe we will be able to draw high skilled labor into this market.
And are you thinking that you're going to need to draw outside labor to get them to settle in the community? Are you talking commuters here? What are you thinking?
I think all the above.
It seems like a lot of people, right?
I think all the above, but the plant will employ 750 people. So yeah, I think both in the short term, but long term, we do believe that a lot of people will come across and build in new housing in Mills County.
Dr. Dan, how do you look at the whole food supply system in general here? We're hearing a lot of it. Chuck Grassley's been talking about this kind of tension between the producers and the processors here. Where is this going here longer term? Because in so many different industries, you're seeing fewer and fewer people remaining, fewer and fewer options here. So those that remain would seem to have a lot of power.
Yeah, I think that what we don't understand is that what we're trying to do, or what Chad's trying to do here in Iowa, is something that we've done in other species. We're not reinventing the wheel. If you look at West Liberty Foods and turkey production, where the producers own the plant and work with the plant, or you look at the poultry and the smart chicken and that concept that took off in Southwest Iowa. You look at our pork industry, where we have vertical integration and the farmer owns the building and the company owns the pigs. This is just taking what we've done in Iowa already in pork and poultry and turkey and just replicating it in beef.
But in all of those, though, how do you compete against Walmart? No disrespect to Chad's, I'm sure he's run all the financials and stuff here, but is it realistic to think you can compete here?
Well, I think you're filling a niche, and I think that you're filling an area that needs more packing capacity. And I take nothing against our packers. We need our larger packer partners. We need them in the state, we need them in the United States. Nothing against them. This is just adding additional capacity to help serve Iowans and cattle feeders in that Omaha, Council Bluffs area.
So as you put your numbers together here, what kind of ask are you making from the state to make the numbers work?
Well, we've put a request into the state and the federal government. We're going through the application processes and the grant processes, and we really don't know where that'll shake out, what's viable, what we're even allowed to get, or how that works, but we're working through the process right now, so we're kind of turning over every stone. A big part of this is we're closing out a fundraising round right now with individual investors, the producers on the farm. And my goal is to get as many producers invested in this plant as possible. I would like to see at least 35% ownership of the plant by the independent producers so that we can all share in the profits of the plant and trickle down to the farms.
Going through this process, what's been the biggest challenge to try to work your way through?
You know, really, it's just the barrier to entry is money. It's a large lift. It's a $450 million project. And to raise that
Don't have that sitting at home?
No, I couldn't find it. So, we're working through every process, but really there hasn't been a lot of challenges. It's been received very well, and there's a lot of excitement built around it. It just takes a long time to design, plan, and do something like this.
So, Dr. Dan, would this be one of the biggest barriers to entry and to do a project like this, whether it's in this space or something similar, that to get it of the magnitude you need to make it realistic, you got to come up with a lot of resources to do it? Is that one of the biggest barriers?
It's huge, and yeah, it's our biggest barrier. And the thing is every year it gets more expensive. And if you look at construction costs and you look at what we've seen in concrete and steel and things to that nature, and the plans that Chad has this is going to be a state-of-the-art plant, and so it's a big project. It's something that's needed, and we need value-added projects like that in Iowa agriculture.
You look broadly at the agriculture industry. What's the biggest weakness do you think that COVID brought out to you?
Well, I think the biggest weakness it brought out is that at this juncture, we need people, we need labor, and agriculture is essential, right? The first thing we saw was our shelves going empty of ground beef and of ground pork and the staple foods. The grocery stores feed the masses. The person putting the hamburger on the shelves is essential. The truck driver is essential. The farmer, the rancher, the packer, everybody's essential. And what we found was that packing plant is kind of the chokehold within the industry, that when that part of the industry goes down, we can't flow into the plant and we can't flow product out of the plant.
Chad, as you're putting this thing together, what we're using as a model here?
Well, we've seen it in the other species. We've seen it in the hog models. We've seen this, as Dan said, we're not reinventing the wheel, but we're taking parts of the things that worked in other industries and just duplicating them. Producer-owned plants, mid-size regional plants, they work. They just work. They have to be designed right, they have to be located right, they have to be capitalized right, but once all that is accomplished and producer-owned, they work, and it's proven in every other species.
You mentioned you're getting the other buy-in here working on that. What's the biggest question that's coming up from them as you're trying to entice them into the project?
Well, do we have a source of the cattle, and do we have a place to sell the meat? And the answer is yes. We have the source of the cattle. The cattle are in Iowa today on feed already. And the source of the meat, we have been contacted by a lot of companies that would like to buy product. Right now, the reality of it is, in the marketplace, that this is a high quality meat coming out of Iowa. We have the best cattle in the world here. And so you're talking about choice and prime meat coming out of here. And right now, in the world stage, there is more demand for this kind of meat than there is supply. So we feel we covered our bases quite well on that.
And that's because of the lag?
That's just because of the quality of cattle. Not every place in the country has the same quality of cattle, so we have it here, so we need to take advantage of it, and we need to get them processed. I mean, the big packers are maxed out on capacity.
Now we'll stay with this project, see where it goes. Coming up, the Iowa candidate running for a 5th time who says this time will be different.